This song I wrote for John Sinclair. Okay, John Sinclair, nice and easy now. Sneaky. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. It ain't fair, John Sinclair, in the stare for breathing air. Won't you care for John Sinclair, in the stare for breathing air? Let him be, set him free, let him be like you and me. They gave him 10 for 2. What else can Judge Columba do? We got to set him free. If he was a soldier man, shooting gooks in Vietnam, if he was the CIA, selling dope and making hay, he'd be free, they'd let him be, breathing air like you and me. They gave him 10 for 2. What else can Judge Columba do? We got to set him free. Got to set him free. Was he jailed for what he done, or representing everyone? Free John now, if he can, from the clutches of the man. Let him be, live for live, bring him to his wife and kids. Alright, they gave him 10 for 2. What else can the bastard do? We got to set him free, free. People say I'm crazy, doing what I'm doing. Well, they give me all kinds of warnings to save me from ruin. When I say that I'm okay, well, they look at me kind of strange. Surely you're not happy now, you no longer play the game. People say I'm lazy, dreaming my life away. Well, they give me all kinds of advice designed to enlighten me. I tell them that I'm doing fine, watching shadows on the wall. Don't you miss the big time, boy, you're no longer on the ball. I'm just sitting here watching the wheels go round and round. I really love to watch them roll. No longer riding on the merry-go-round. they shake their heads and they look at me as if I've lost my mind. I tell them there's no hurry, I'm just sitting here doing time. I'm just sitting here watching the wheels go round and round. I really love to watch them roll. No longer riding on the merry-go-round. I just had to let it go. I just had to let it go. I just had to let it go.
Thank you. We have launched.
Alrighty.
We have launched.
Okay, thanks, Chad.
I started the show this week.
Welcome to the Planet Green Trees episode number, what do we call it, 325. We're calling it Left of the Dial. We are live now on Spreaker. If you're listening to us on Planet Green Trees, on Blog Talk, which is impossible because we don't set it up anymore. But tell everybody that we are now here on Spreaker if you're listening, and we have a call-in number, which is...
It's 224-803-3098.
And as I said, episode number 325. I'm your host, Michael Camorn, and we're about to embark on 2 hours of discussion about medical cannabis reform. And alongside of me to help bring you information, but mostly entertainment, please welcome, if you would, the community entertainment, starting with Chad from the Birmingham Compassion Club.
Good evening. It's nice to be here.
You have Rick Thompson, the editor-in-chief of Planet Green Trees News and the editor-in-chief of the Compassion Chronicles, who will be bringing us news tonight. Welcome, please, Rick Thompson.
Good evening, everyone.
Our producer puts the show together week in and week out from Third Coast Dispensary in Ypsilanti. He's also very active in the MI Legalize movement, to say the least. Please welcome our producer and all-around good guy, Jamie Lowell.
Hello, and don't forget to check out Planet Green Trees, Camorn Law, and the MMMA on Twitter, Mass Roots, Instagram, and Facebook.
Alongside me and taking a very active role in the show, Jamie's actually trying to push it all off on him. Please welcome, if you would, one of the founders of MI Legalize, a board member, and also the founder of Michigan Parents for Compassion, co-founder, Jim Powers, please.
Thank you, Michael. Good evening, everyone. It's good to be here.
Moving around the room, we have the internationally renowned attorney, barrister, guitar player, friend, and iguana lover. Please welcome Jeff Frazier.
Hola.
We're lucky tonight to have with us what we like to call the rover of our crew here. Whatever needs to get done, he gets it done. Please welcome T-Pain.
Thanks. Good to be here.
And tonight, amongst other things, we're going to be talking about that last night there was a hosting of the MI Legalize 2018 kickoff at Weber's Restaurant in Ann Arbor. The campaign was a combination of fundraising and identifying new partners and associations for the effort. And we're going to be talking about that. We're also going to talk about potentially the situation occurring on Standing Rock as it continues to escalate. Sharmi Goldston from Michigan Moms United is going to be calling in. We're going to rant a little bit about some of the things that are taking place. We're going to discuss a little bit about the lawsuit that was argued this past week and yesterday, actually, in federal court against the Oakland County Crime Lab and the Michigan State Forensic Crime Lab, hashtag Crime Factory, and whatever else floats your boat. But please, we're taking calls tonight. We've got a lot of things to go over and whatnot. First, let me do a couple of shout-outs real quick. I want to give a big hello to our friend and my colleague and security for Camorn Lawn, Dewey. And, of course, Pam, his lovely better half. I want to shout out to David Light, the art director of Planet Green Trees, all the people over at the Michigan Medical Marijuana Association. We shout out tonight to our good friend and Thetford Township trustee, Eric Gunnels. Please text him at 1-888-GUNNELS. We would like to say hello to Theo and Wendy. We know they're listening, and all the other people that are taking the time to follow and listen. Anybody else we missing? Shout out. Aaron Powers should probably get a shout out. What? She's not listening, though. Sharmi should be listening.
I can't talk.
Chad, are you...
She's definitely not listening.
Okay. So, I'm going to suggest we take a break. I'm going to come back and rant, and we're going to get right into it and do some stuff because the show is about to start right here at 8:15, as I notice, and we do not want to get bombarded by that. And with that being said, we're going to take a quick break and come right back. What is the call number again? Do we have a call number?
Yeah, there we go. It's 224-803-3098. We'll be taking callers throughout the show, so call in.
Okay.
Throughout the show.
And we'll be right back.
Yeah, Billy was a vampire, carving out an empire, strolling pirates alley in the middle of the night. Buy a round of cocktails, spinning sordid fables in the twilight. That's alright. Scattered words that matter. It's a disaster in the making. Take the time to smell the leaves beneath the trees. That's alright. My whole life has gone haywire. Just a blade bending in your shape. For your love, I'm a vampire, strolling the ways of Espionage. I headed up to Pittsburgh. Heard you could get a pretty good sandwich for 15 and a dime. Oh, I miss that old stretch of road down to the bayou. Middle of the night. Guilt by association, the mere smell of speculation conjures up hell. That's alright. Feel the touch of oil from the tankers upon the breeze. Yeah, that's alright. My whole life
No, I'm ready.
If you having girl problems, I feel bad for you, son. I got 99 problems, but a bitch ain't one. I got the rap patrol on the Gap patrol. Foes that want to make sure my casket's closed. Rap critics to say he's money cash holes. I'm from the hood, stupid. What type of facts are those? If you grew up with hoes in your zapatos, you celebrate the minute you was having dough. I'm like, fuck critics, you could kiss my whole asshole. If you don't like my lyrics, you could press fast forward. Got beef with radio if I don't play they show.
Alrighty, we're back. Thanks for staying with us. It's 8:22. We've got like an hour and 40 minutes left, I think, maybe. Is that right? All right. I think we're going to go to the news. Let's go down. No, it's just rants. I'm not even. What was I doing during the break? I don't remember. What were we doing? Dead air. All right. I got some. So we're going to talk first about we had the kickoff for. Yeah, we got that. Well, I'm going to talk about that right now for a second while I warm my. Last night there was a kickoff at what restaurant, Jamie? It was at Weber's Restaurant. Weber's Restaurant in Ann Arbor. But the big news, of course, has been that Q from James Bond. What is it? Antoinette Jameson, of course, is retired, stepped down from Channel 2. Very well, very loved anchor person, or whatever her title was, really well liked in the community and inspirational to a lot of people, and understood that this MS plagued her, and she fought through while she was on the air. And also we understand she's a medical cannabis patient, which helped her while she was working. You obviously don't have a drug testing policy there. It's good to know, but nevertheless, at the end of the day, she's stepped down and she's joining, or at least assisting, going to join MI Legalize and trying to attempt to push the ball across the end zone. And she was at this event last night. Is that right, Jamie Lowell? Chad, turn on the thing from, will you?
Yep. Am I on?
Yeah.
That is correct. She was there with her husband, who is also supportive of the cause. She also is going to spend time in retirement working on behalf of Multiple Sclerosis Foundation. I'm not sure the exact name of it offhand, but she's also very interested in being active on that side of things. We were also visited last night by Michigan Supreme Court Justice candidate Deborah Thomas, who was on the show a couple weeks ago, and she said a few words. We heard from Jeff Hank last night, who got a lot of people fired up about the campaign, and there were a lot of great people there who have a lot to contribute. We got some good financial donations, and we have a lot of commitments from people who are able to help out in a lot of ways. So it was a very productive night, and it was a great way to get things started.
All righty. So I'm going to, thanks for warming up there, Jimmy. I'm going to talk about a couple of things that startled me this past week or so, and then kind of finish up with the lawsuit from yesterday. But it still is troubling that even though the at least basic understanding of the Michigan Medical Marijuana Act has been recognized, the most, I think, significant event that's taken place in the 7 or 8 years is the recent legislative amendments to the Michigan Medical Marijuana Act. And I think it's important to recognize and talk about it frequently so that the message is out that, in fact, when the legislature took its pen and amended the Michigan Medical Marijuana Act, they did so for a very specific purpose. And that was to correct the mistakes that had been taking place and by acknowledging their failure to implement the Michigan Medical Marijuana Act as it was intended by the electorate in 2008, when 3.3 million people voted for medical cannabis in Michigan. And what they focused on in that instance was particular language in the preamble, you might say, that when Michigan adopts this law, it should dramatically reduce the number of patients who are arrested. And I think a good way to look at how the legislature approaches was they looked back retroactively and said, is that really taking place? And the answer is absolutely not. And every issue, really looking back retrospectively, that came up at the trial level, Court of Appeals level, required a fight, required people to be brought into the criminal system, required interpretations to be made that were nonsense by the Court of Appeals before the Supreme Court cleared it up. But there is one of the issues that came through the system over the last 8 years, and it's interesting because of all the Supreme Court cases that were medical marijuana that ended in the Supreme Court, there was different views at the trial court and the appellate court. There was always some judges disagreeing, even though the ultimate decision by the Supreme Court may have been unanimous. But one in particular, Wyoming versus Tierbeek, was one of those cases that it wasn't just unanimous by the Supreme Court, but it was a unanimous decision by the Court of Appeals and and obviously the trial court that had ruled in favor of Tierbeek. I think the total count was 11 judges, maybe, all found in favor of Tierbeek, and that the cities, townships, villages could not enact laws that interfered with the protections outlined in the Michigan Medical Marijuana Act. This is something that could not be done. They recognized in that case that the notice that's given by the Michigan Medical Marijuana Act, that if you are charged under federal law, you have no protections, was enough notice so that the federal law could run parallel to the Michigan Medical Marijuana Act without conflict. Michigan citizens know that if you're charged in federal court, you have no medical marijuana defense. In state court, you should expect that the law will apply to you. And under no circumstances shall a city take away, vitiate, undermine those rights that are outlined in the state law. And what we're seeing, and I think has been an unfortunate pattern over the last 3 years since this case, is that city after city after city are creating ordinances, writing laws that directly conflict with the Michigan Medical Marijuana Act's protections for caregivers and patients. Now, I realize that this comes about because a lot of those on the other side don't like the idea of caregiving. They don't like people going in their houses. Hear over and over again, oh, there's so much danger and the electricity and blah, 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 blah. Well, guess what? 3.3 million people voted for it. It's a fact. Part of the law. You don't like it. It is, as they say, go change the law. And guess what? You only got 180 days to get your signatures. So good luck. And it troubles me when I see these things coming through the news, which involve this Sterling Heights crackdown on medical marijuana caregivers. This is one of those cities that has now created a law that outlawing caregiving, and they're going to go around and tell citizens in Sterling Heights that despite the ruling in Tierbeek, they cannot be caregivers. And I know that the issues that are Alan's trying to tell me that Tierbeek lost in the trial court. That might be. Okay, so I stand corrected by attorney Alan Peisner, who's telling me that Tierbeek lost in the trial court. But after that, all the judges were unanimous. 10. All right. Where was I? So now we have this Sterling Heights crackdown on caregivers, and it goes on, extends beyond that. At the marijuana law section, State Bar of Michigan, in the last couple of weeks, there was police officers that were there that were attending, and prosecutors, as is allowed because it's a State Bar event, and they happen to be from Ypsilanti, city of, or I don't know, village of, whatever it is. What is it? Township. Okay. Nevertheless, they had indicated to me that they are the enforcement of the medical marijuana law in their little township there, and that there's no caregiving that's allowed. Yeah. That you can only go as a patient. And I said, that is not a thing. But there they were, soaking in information. And hold on, turn on this microphone, Chad. Come on.
Yeah, if you remember, Michael, a long time ago, at one point, I had you and another attorney from Ann Arbor and an ACLU representative all working together with me and with a potential plaintiff who was a caregiver, who was a member of the community there for years, whose father was a respected lawyer, has no baggage whatsoever, who has a sick mother and a sick sister who are patients. And she wanted to grow for both of them in the house. And we were thinking about using her case as a basis of declaratory judgment, but it never materialized. So yes, and they've gone so far now as to use the state law of being able to deem it a drug house when it's just a caregiver in violation of their local ordinance, and threatening at least to put a padlock on it for a year.
I know he's not listening because they had some kind of ritualistic Federalist Society thing tonight, but Schuyler, I believe, is representing and could probably add some information on this more in the particulars. But this is not uncommon. We've seen these cities enact ordinances trying to preclude it. For example, there's a few cities that require caregivers who are growing marijuana in the city to register with the local city. This is not a thing. And all of that I'm talking about refers back to that, what is it, footnote 9 of the 5 or 9? Tier B case that it's 9, which discusses the it recognizes the cities do have the authority, as they always do, to regulate to some degree, but to what extent was kind of left open. And I think that we had Dan Koropkin on the show, who was the attorney for Tier B, and we were unable to come up with something that may actually fall into that category. I mean, it would have to be something that's so far outside of the outlined protections, such as privacy, caregiving. I mean, I don't know what they could preclude. I mean, they're allowed to zone for safety, and they're allowed to create laws for the health and safety of the community, and that is the only issue. I think we've seen one case where that's been litigated, wherein the nuisance and smell was the critical factor that ultimately. But I do think that I don't know how far that went in terms of the Court of Appeals or whatnot. But anyways, I just find it distressing that this is still taking place when the legislature just went through this whole process of trying to correct the mistakes, and we still have law enforcement officers creating their own laws and using words like crackdown. Footnote 9 is correct according to Allen. All right. The other thing that I thought was disturbing was this news article from the Free Press of how little work court-appointed attorneys do for their clients. And I don't think there's any better way to describe that headline as to say that the system is broken. There's no question the system is broken. And I do not shed not one shed of blame on a court-appointed lawyer, because the fact that they're doing so little work is a reflective of the broken system. They are just a player in it, dealing with what scraps they have to play with in a very, very burdensome, overwhelming, broken system. And what I mean by that is, that the process of being accused in a criminal case is probably the worst thing anyone could ever go through. And the entire system is set up to manage paper and manage files and manage the administration of human beings' rights. And it is really an undaunting task. In other words, we have too many people being brought through the system. That's the problem. That's the brokenness of it. We should eliminate 40% of it. I could name that chunk of it if you need to. And the reason I'm able to come up with that statistic of 40% is because we know that the Michigan State Forensic Science Division uses 40% of its resources to test marijuana. Undo that, and the system will be a little less broken. I will guarantee you that. But when you have so many people coming through and so little time given in a 9 to 5, court with trials and motions and hearings, the norm becomes the herding and the moving along and the administration of paper and humans' constitutional rights, and it is very distressing. But that's not the way it goes at Camorra Law, I can promise you that. But this wasn't intended to be a public service announcement. It is just that I've seen the system, and it's unfortunate because a lot of people do not have the capacity to hire sometimes. I would say this: if there's anything that anybody could do, it would, especially in medical cannabis, because those that are involved are more likely knowledgeable about the law than the random court-appointed lawyer that they're going to run into in court. So I think being knowledgeable about that and being able to at least present to your court-appointed lawyer that should be able to take it from there is about the best that you could do, and I'll leave it at that. And finally, and I want to bring Frazier in on this. Yesterday, we, Camorn Law, Jeff Frazier, and Tim Daniels, Texas, flew all the way from Dallas, Texas, appeared in federal court on behalf of our proposed class action, which were all medical marijuana patients who we allege had been harmed, and also the class of medical marijuana patients and caregivers that remain in the state are harmed and continue to be harmed by the reporting practices of the Michigan State Police, Forensic Science Division, as well as the Oakland County Sheriff's Department. And yesterday was a hearing on the motion to dismiss. And let me back up and explain procedurally what happened. As we've talked about, we filed a lawsuit against the Michigan State Forensic Science Division and the Oakland County Lab, alleging that, amongst other things, that they were reporting falsely samples that were marijuana, and they were reporting them as something other than marijuana. And we're talking about the way we're reporting substances that were non-plant material. Both the Michigan State Crime Lab and the Oakland do not report marijuana for non-plant marijuana where they don't see plant material. Instead, Oakland County reports it as Delta-1 tetrahydrocannabinol Schedule 1 with no reference to anything regarding marijuana, which is a reporting of synthetic THC. And the Michigan State Forensic Science Division reports these things as Delta-1 tetrahydrocannabinol Schedule 1, origin unknown, or the origin could be marijuana or from a synthetic source. And we've talked a lot about this on the show, but that was the parties, that was the essence of the reasons, and our claims are that because of these reporting processes, the our named class, which included the entire state of Michigan's patient caregiver class, due process rights are being violated, have been violated, and will continue to be violated if this is not changed. And the constitutional issues are, of course, if someone's going to get arrested, that's a Fourth Amendment violation, that's due process, and all the other due process rights of, immunity and presumption of innocence and things going along with that. And yesterday was our hearing on the defendants. We were the plaintiffs, by the way. We sat closest to the jury box. It's a good place to be. And the arguments were that the complaint should be dismissed. In federal court, it's what's known as a 12B6, or a motion for summary disposition. And the legal theory is that, as the defense argued, that even assuming the complaint in the light most favorable to the plaintiffs, the moving party, us, we did not state a cause of action or will be precluded from going forward based on some other procedural failure, such as standing or... What was the other one, Jeff? Turn on the microphone.
Abstention. In other words,
Abstention.
basically the federal judge is being asked to abstain and let the state courts work it out.
So there were some interesting arguments made. Jeff, did I frame it accurately?
Precisely. In a nutshell, and importantly, the judge's primary comment was on this, is that they have, since the filing of the lawsuit, the Michigan legislature passed a law reducing the punishment for synthetic cannabinoids from a felony to a misdemeanor. In other words,
in the Good Samaritan
exactly
law now?
Exactly, in the Good Samaritan Act that was subsequently signed into effect, which in two things. One is certainly great. It should and is designed to prevent what happened to the sheriff deputies in King County and what happened to Max, and it's happened to tons of people, and certainly still is happening to tons of people. So, on the other hand, it's certainly an indication that something was wrong, that needed fixing. So the judge was curious as to that.
But not only that, Jeff, but am I wrong to say that if, let's say, I was arrested and charged with possession of synthetic THC, that would preclude me from exercising my rights under Section 4, Section 8 of the Michigan Medical Marijuana Act.
Precisely, and that was the answer basically to their substantive, complaint, which is, well, we've reduced it from a felony to a misdemeanor. Well, now you're reporting false misdemeanors instead of reporting false felonies.
And also, if they go ahead, I'm sorry.
And that would that police report would strip you of your immunities. Yes, that's the argument.
The other thing was if the difference of the felony charges of a 4-year felony, right, Jim, possession with intent to deliver, a certain quantity versus of marijuana, like whatever, just like manufacturing marijuana plants or possession with intent to deliver marijuana or delivery are all 4-year felonies. Any one of those as a synthetic are 7 years.
I think they're 15.
7 and 20, I think, is what it is.
20 under federal law as well, and mind you that this is the same. This reporting practice is also we expect going on at the federal level. It's the difference between Schedule 1 THC is a 20-year felony and marijuana, which is what all this is a 5-year felony under federal law, and punished accordingly. So yeah, I mean, I think great that they changed it, but it didn't fix it. They put a Band-Aid on it.
I was thinking about it. And I don't know if this may sound controversial. I hate to get controversial, but if you follow the logic and the arguments made by the lab that these things may not be marijuana,
Oh yeah,
and it's the argument that I think, Judge, what you're ultimately doing is you're letting the lab scientists get on the stand and say that they believe that there are aliens because
can't rule it out.
Can't rule it out. Seriously, can't rule it. And it's such an infinite universe.
That's exactly right. That's exactly what they're saying, and therein lies the systematic false reporting system that is in place, which is they are saying that it is accurate to say that it might be synthetic. Either it is synthetic or it might be synthetic when they know very, very good and well that it's not, because the evidence is right in front of their eyes.
Let's draw that out a little bit more so people understand, because what they're saying, what the Michigan State at least is saying, is that we can't tell if it's synthetic origin or naturally based. We say that is total rubbish. Why? Because there is, within their own data, within the results of the mass spectrometer,
it identifies marijuana.
It identifies THC,
CBD,
and
CBN.
at least three or four other cannabinoids, which are unique to the marijuana plant, and nowhere else would they be occurring in the same sample. But the suggestion is that these things were synthetically made or origin from non-marijuana or some chemicals, and created in a laboratory because they can't rule it out, and it could be a thing.
Yeah.
Now this is literally like, right? It's like finding
they've
like
actually
finding an alien.
Introduced the word synthetic now, where it never existed before, in a footnote, just in case you didn't get it before.
Let me say this. This is what we were talking about before. There's no such thing as synthetic. Let's just say that. There is no such thing as synthetic THC. It does not exist in the universe. Tell me how it does, Jamie Lowell.
Marinol.
That is Marinol. That's not synthetic
what I
THC.
said too. It's dronabinol, but
that's
it is
Schedule 3. It's not synthetic THC. Keep going.
It's
But
synthetic, but not Schedule 1.
right. That's what doesn't make any.
Well, the
sense.
synthetic
Chemically,
THC,
it's in
wait,
lab
the
standard
synthetic
bottle.
THC that we are speaking of, which would be this other thing,
Doesn't
is somehow
exist.
a Schedule 1. Okay?
Right.
Because it's called synthetic THC.
But if we
Where
take the law-
is it?
if we-
Tell me of any time in the history of the world.
irony of the whole thing is that the only people that have access to true synthetic THC are the lab people,
Right.
in the form of the standards bottles.
Right.
And the Marinol people.
And even that, it's packed because it's the people that
Hold on.
manufacture
Dronabinol. If we take the law out of it, dronabinol is synthetic THC.
Yes.
Can we all agree to that?
Yes.
If
It's
you
just
take
that
the packaging
only
out
synthetic,
of
in
it.
fact.
Right. But the
Only
second the
synthetic.
package goes on it all of a sudden
becomes
becomes
Schedule
Schedule 3.
III.
It gets
Yes.
FDA approved, and
It's magic.
But the fact is, there are chemical markers in dronabinol that allow them to distinguish whether that's the sample that's not.
The lab will not say that.
No, absolutely there are not.
There's
the
not.
only thing
There's
that,
not.
The
Sesame,
only thing,
sesame oil keeps it together. That's what they say.
Yeah, it's
Yes.
There's
sesame
no
oil.
other. You would think that there would
the
be.
only thing that defines
pure
dronabinol is the packaging.
The way
and the sesame
Under a
oil.
microscope, it looks like THC. It looks the same as THC
They
for
can't
marijuana. It looks the
differentiate.
same,
But
right?
there are preservatives that they put inside the dronabinol to increase shelf life.
There are, but
it's
the way that-
suspended in
So you can
sesame
identify
oil.
them
Sesame
from the
oil.
preservatives.
The way
But
that
even
they
so, it wouldn't be identified as dronabinol if it were out of the packaging.
The
it
way-
has to be in the gel
I mean, this is what they say.
I would argue
Well,
that
I,
if
listen,
you
I,
find
Rick,
sesame-
Rick, I argue the same thing.
It seems
I think there's
chemically
got to
there
be
should
something,
there-
some bonding elements or something.
We are too smart in 2016 to not be able to distinguish something organically derived versus something synthetically
Oh, we
derived.
can, but the way that
They
they do it, they
stopped
just
testing.
they test for other cannabinoids. That's how they bust you from using marijuana as opposed to using dronabinol. But chemically, they're the same. You put
No,
it,
what's going on is this: if you take the THC from marinol or dronabinol, it's THC. The molecule looks the same, but within that sample, there would be no other chemicals associated with the marijuana plant. There'd be no cannabidiol. There'd be no THCA. There'd be no other.
Cannabivarin, exactly.
Any of
correct.
those.
CBG, any of the others.
Correct.
None of them would be in existence.
Correct.
That's right.
And that is enough to distinguish it from everything else because
The
that is a pure
absence of
synthetic.
chemistry is
Correct.
indicative of its origin.
And
the
they would
lab
run it through the
has-
GCMS, and there would be none of these other things. But the any of the other substances that will have any other the cannabinoids within it are identifiers unique to marijuana plant, and there are more. Trust me, there are more. And the lab will ignore them. They will not look
They're
at them.
all
They'll turn a blind eye to
indicators
it.
of organic origin, and because that's contrary to the conclusion they wish to reach, they ignore the science involved.
Right, they claim it could be the cannabinoids, each one synthesized.
What they
mixed
should really
together.
be
Like,
saying-
it's the most ridiculous thing in the world.
What they would really be saying is that you understand they have to say that the cannabidiol and the THCA were all made synthetically, which means they were made from some other substance other than marijuana that nobody knows. Even what who knows these things?
Or they're
Where's
made
the
from
secret? Where's the
chemicals.
formula to this?
Right.
The people that
And who would make
Marinol know
cannabidiol?
it.
That is THC, Chad. That's a valuable recipe.
True. Good
Okay,
point.
because you could make it. You could
Who
make
even knows how
right?
to make CBD?
Well, you get
Nobody
it in
knows how
hemp
to-
oil.
why would
hemp
it-
oil tests positive for all three. Hemp oil tests positive for THC, CBD, and CBN. You buy it on the
Yes.
shelf.
That's right.
At your local grocer.
yeah.
I agree with
Word.
that because they're all present, even though in reduced quantities or in different proportions in the original plant because it's from the cannabis genus.
No one's talking proportionality here at all, Rick.
right.
That's the other problem. We're talking detection, which is a major problem, which leaves them open to the identifying of substances that are not actually on the controlled substance list, as Jeff was saying.
But if your goal is to say yes or no, then exactly the standard they've set is ideal for them because it's minimum responsibility and they don't have to really get in depth with it.
Their goal is to test more cases with less time.
Their goal is more money.
And the more testing that they have to do, the slower it is. And
That's why
and
they're only doing 2 out of 3 of the.
yeah, they're
That's right.
taking shortcuts wherever they possibly can because they're already stressing their lab. 40% of it is marijuana testing.
Yep.
It is going to cause them to crash on other cases.
So imagine if you are anticipating a big rush of cases because of some crackdown on dispensaries or some change in rules, which is probably going to result in a lot more criminality of common folk. You'd want to expand that Michigan State Police crime lab to give more testing stations, to streamline the process, which is a code word for ignore science, in order
It's
to
just
accommodate that.
more resources thrown at marijuana in the end, and it looks worse and worse the
Yep.
higher proportion of all of their total resources that they use on marijuana because they're not performing well on the other areas as far as being able to deliver reports on time and stuff. They still push marijuana back behind other things, but they're not doing well across the board.
It's why we identify guys like Michael Comorn and Jeff Frazier as heroes in the community, because without these cases, without your 4 plaintiffs taking on the Michigan State Police Crime Lab, that type of atrocity continues unnoticed. And then it just becomes standard procedure and unchallengeable as we allow it to persist for 12, 24, 36 months, right?
That's right.
Exactly correct. Because it becomes so much part of the process, you can no longer extricate it.
Yep. We got to take a break.
You see that big
guys.
gigantic white elephant on the wall over there?
The shell
Have
is
you
going
see the
to
big gigantic white elephant?
gonna
Today I got
slap
Jeff
you.
Frazier to see it.
When we come
It's
back,
been standing there for a long time today. And when that happened, there's going to be some big news breaking.
Big news.
Big shell.
and when we come back to after we wrap up this case, I'd like to talk about the other federal case that Camoran Law is involved in.
But we got to do the news first, but we got to go to a break quick. The shell's going to hit. It's going to slap us.
Alberta, let your hair hang low. Alberta, let your hair hang low. I'll give you more gold than your apron strings can hold if you'll only let your hair hang low. Alberta, what's on your mind? Alberta, what's on your mind? You keep me worried and bothered all of the time. Alberta, what's on your mind?
after a while we took in the clothes. Nobody.
Back. Okay. All right. Thanks for staying with us. 9 o'clock, right on the nose. This shell is clearly working. David Rudoy has entered the studio. I don't know what that means, but he's taking the hot seat right here.
Find out.
Maybe while he's warming up his voice, and we'll listen to the news, and maybe we'll get a couple topics here. But so let's do that if we can. Missing in the I think the quality entertainment the last couple weeks has been our inability to get Rick's news spot in. But this week we are not going to waste any further. Kicking off this top of the hour, we are going to go directly to Rick Thompson with the news.
Good evening, everybody. Oh, it's been a wild night tonight at Planet Green Trees. I am Rick Thompson. It's the news. It's November 3rd, 2016, 5 days away from the election. Woo! You know, an average physician takes, anywhere from about 11 to 20 patients per day. But one particular medical marijuana certifying physician certainly blew that average away and certified 11,810 patients in a single year, which is approximately 45 patients per day.
That's above and beyond.
That's somebody who's trying to brown nose his way to the teacher's pet status. That's according to the Office of the Auditor General, who released a special report on the Michigan Medical Marijuana Program. They also determined that 22 additional physicians certified about 56% of the total for 2015, about 46,854 medical marijuana patients. The remainder of those physicians are about 11,810. The remainder of the number of physicians is staggering. Doctors are just recommending cannabis all over the place. About 1,419 Michigan doctors reported having a bona fide doctor-patient relationship with those patients in 2015. Staggering numbers. Jumping to Washington, D.C. just briefly, D.C. Council's approved a measure allowing medical marijuana users from other jurisdictions to use their out-of-state registration cards to purchase cannabis in the district, called reciprocity. We are seeing those type of things spread all across the United States of America. I will also say that here in Michigan, reciprocity has the ability to add to a potential $711 million market in medical marijuana, according to the Senate Fiscal Agency. That's their projection, our Senate Fiscal Agency, who says that if we were to have a citizenry with buying habits similar to Colorado's medical marijuana marketplace, that's how much we could be raking in. Expected dispensary sales for this year, 2016, range from $140 million to $180 million here in the state. Those are unregulated wildcatters who have been doing patients good for years and years and years. Of course, there's a question as to whether or not the recent passing of the collection of bills is expected to be a step forward or a step backward into developing a full medical marijuana program. But, those bills have led to a lot of news about local communities, including Wayne. A site plan for a medical marijuana dispensary, which would be the second in the city, was recently approved by the Wayne City Council. It would be operated by a guy who already runs a bar. The Portage City Council has extended its moratorium on new medical marijuana facilities for at least a year. That's about how long it might take the state to set up the new production and distribution system. The 6-month moratorium they already had was just about to expire. You know who's had a really long-standing ordinance? Roseville. But guess what? Not anymore. During the Roseville City Council meeting on October 25th, all members of the council voted to repeal their ordinance governing medical marijuana dispensaries, which dates all the way back to 2010. The least functional exclusionary zoning. Exactly right. Chad knows exactly what that's all about. They finally wiped it off the book, saying, let's start from a clean slate. Oh, but we're still going to keep our medical marijuana moratorium in place. Final story for this evening. With a Michigan tie-in, a new study's found that states with some form of legalized medical cannabis have not seen an uptick in the usage rates of adolescents and young adults. According to researchers at Columbia University, the U of C, and Boston University. For a 10-year period from 2004 to 2013, people who responded to the National Survey of Drug Use and Health were evaluated. Over 53,000 people completed the surveys annually distributed by the government. The researchers looked at those responding from states that had some form of medical cannabis legalization, including Connecticut, New Mexico, Michigan, Arizona, Delaware, Rhode Island, Massachusetts, New Hampshire, New Jersey, and Illinois. The research found that rates of cannabis use among people under the age of 26 went unchanged with the adoption of medical cannabis regimes. However, the researchers did discover usage rates among people over 26 increased by about 1.3%. The results are roughly what to be expected. An increase in cannabis use among adults, young adults, may be attributable to adults suffering from medical conditions treatable through the use of medical cannabis. The associate professor for epidemiology says the law seems to be working as expected with little unintended consequences for youth and young adults to date. Little unintended consequences for youth and young adults to date. That's a great way to end the news. Folks, it's the news. Thanks very much for listening. I'm Rick Thompson. Back to Michael Camoran.
For all of us here at News Center 4, I'm Ron Burgundy. You stay classy, San Diego.
You get nasty, San Diego. That's my response.
All right. In the hot seat now, we've got apparently David Radoy. It's gonna answer some legal questions, and I don't know. I need a topic which you really didn't come up with, but I did want to ask you something from a procedural aspect. What about these SCAO whatever guidelines? What about that crap?
The SCAO guidelines are what's ruining my life lately.
They suck.
It is rules made up by the Supreme Court Administrative Office, so they have no power over these courts really, and they just made up some like basic guidelines for how long criminal cases should take, all sorts of cases should take, and the only consequence to not following these guidelines is that your opponent may be able to use it against you, or they may like try to like cite you for being slow, and then your opponent will use that against you in an election. And the judges care so much about that they don't care about constitutional rights, a little Sixth Amendment right about due process that they just deny.
All right, let's talk about that. I do want us all to know that we should be blessed to learn that Schuyler, the Federalist, is listening. We should all understand that. We should have him call in and discuss this Sterling Heights case in more detail, as we mentioned about the Wyoming versus Tierback. What's the numbers we can call in? Turn on this microphone, Chad. Come on.
Schuyler, call 224-803-3098.
But returning to David Radoy's comments on these SAO whatever guidelines, when you talk about a broken system, when you talk about a court-appointed lawyer not putting any time into it, why do you think this is? What do you think this system is? This system is a judge who is now thrown whatever decency they would have to the benefit of the doubt to protect the defendant's rights and give the lawyer for the defendant, court-appointed nonetheless, an opportunity to get the discovery, review the discovery, which is very rarely all produced on time, and force it through the system, and that's what we're living in right now, and that's a real problem. I mean, you can't talk about a crappy court-appointed system, and again, I'm not defending it. I'm just saying the system's so broken but you got to call it out where the problems are, and the lawyers can only be blamed if you've got judges that are hurting people into pleas. And that's the way that it goes. Talk to me, Rudoy.
All right. So, I mean, I kind of want to talk about that thing because the numbers in that article, I don't think were that crazy compared to what a lot of retained attorneys do. I mean, I wouldn't include Michael Comorn in that list of retained attorneys, that's for sure. But there are a lot of retained attorneys that just shuffle people through the system as well. And the
Bullshit artists.
The percentage was pretty low for going to trial, but
the reality is, listen, look, on that point as well, there's no way in the world that, and this is not a new thing. I'm not saying something that's revolutionary. Anyone that looks at the system will agree that there's no way that the number of people that plead guilty are in fact really guilty. I mean, that is a fact. What is 97%, 96%? This is not.
I think it was 98% of total cases go to trial.
Don't go to
trial.
trial.
I mean, 2% go to trial,
right?
And
there's
98%
no way
are pleas or potentially, are resolved with dismissals. Like, because if we file a motion and the case is dismissed, that didn't go to trial. Like, so it's 2% go to trial. When I was trying to break down those numbers, I thought they were, I don't know, I didn't think they were that horrible. But I mean, we've seen it first person.
The system is not efficient at justice. It's efficient at shoving people through the system.
And taking their money.
Yeah.
When you go to court.
And their dignity.
When you go to court, how many cases are getting set for trial? How many times do you hear someone plead guilty in court where you had the same facts and it's just garbage? There's things you could have done, would have done.
I mean, Schuyler tells me a story about how he went to trial. Like, he's known as the guy who goes to trial because he goes to, nobody in Macomb, it's just a lot more.
Yeah, you can't go to
trial.
You're not allowed to just think about it, though,
that people
when we go to trial, it's the court's completely booked for the entire week. Like, it would think about what that actually means. It means each judge can have 50 something trials maximum, and it's not even that really.
Oh, it's much less.
It's much less.
And if we're all demanding trials, we should be,
totally
it really would screw up the whole system. And if all lawyers that knew how were filing Section 8s and having the hearings and doing them properly, which they're not short hearings, we could also
trials.
Grind up this court system and get the judges to start saying,
yes, that is absolutely true. And as an activist, we can all say that. And, of course, at the end of the day, the lawyer's commitment is to the client and the client's best interest. So, and,
nobody files more Section 8s than you do.
I know, but that's because my clients I'm not making them do that. I mean, we give them options, and options are good, and if we can fight back,
leave no stone unturned.
But the bottom line is that if you want to get anywhere, you got to be able to fight back, and that's been one of the beauties of the Michigan Medical Marijuana Act, which allows someone to embrace the proffered evidence as being possessed and making your case that it wasn't for criminal reasons but for medical reasons instead. And it's been a phenomenal opportunity that a lot of people should recognize. And there's a lot of dynamics about it that are unique to the criminal justice system that if you recognize that it is a different parallel. It's a total different...
It's based on patient and caregiver testimony.
Yeah.
Period.
But anyways, nonetheless,
that's what people should know about.
Independent of marijuana or marijuana cases, which make up 40% of the docket, it's not like that. It probably is like that, but still, people are pleading guilty. 98% of the time, or 2%. I do not believe that is a fair.
There's a percentage that are being dismissed positively for defendants. It might be small. I know some court-appointed attorneys that take court-appointed work and bust their ass on cases.
Yeah, I'm not. That's what I'm saying. I'm not denigrating any of the court-appointed lawyers. What I was saying is that, we live in a time where the judges are public figures, and they get reelected by public. Here he's right here. Right, he's here. We got to let somebody in. So the point being, David.
What is it?
98% of the people are pleading guilty.
I mean,
this is ridiculous.
we know it's a screwed system, and people aren't getting their due process, and the judges routinely intimidate clients into taking deals by threatening them if they go to trial to jail time. So it's it's a very tough system to be a defendant in, and it's degrading. And I think the bond conditions that are imposed on people are an affront to the presumption of innocence. And, that's the system. And these SEO guidelines are just they're like cattle herding, like you should move this many cattle this fast. I think you put it pretty well with your, like this case the cattle must make it through down the hallway. And the thing is that the judges refuse to admit is they allow for 10% of complicated cases to go outside of those guidelines. And
the other thing that they don't really understand is that most of the judges in the state are not kicking their dockets like this. The ones that are so crazy about it, like it doesn't even make sense because there are judges that aren't like that at all.
Listen, I'm beginning to understand the mind of a Federalist more and more as I get to engage with Schuyler. Just so you know, I think I've identified it. It's totally a split personality. Nothing can be because originally it's like, don't call me out. I don't want to. Don't call me out. And now he's in the queue. So without further ado, let's get Schuyler onto into the queue. Schuyler, there's nobody that I know that's more of a media whore than you. Here. Welcome.
I'm not. Can you tell me? First of all, I have to say I'm a long-time listener and first-time caller.
That's cute. That's very cute.
And can you also tell me to turn down my radio?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
No, there's no radio. It's not really like that. but that's funny and timely, timeless.
Yep.
By the way, I just have to make an announcement. My dear friend Darren has now entered the studio. He may be asking some questions because we have Schuyler. You met Schuyler, the Federalist. All right, very good. Schuyler, please continue.
This designation is really wearing on me.
Yes. It is. Yes. Yeah, it is, definitely. Maybe not.
No, we just like...
Anyway, you want to talk about Sterling Heights?
Yeah.
Yes, Tier Beck and Tier B. Yep, that's your case. Let's go.
Well, yeah, we don't know what we're going to do with it, and I won't know what we're going to do until my client gives me authorization. But just to talk about...
Give us the background. Let everybody know what we're talking about.
Sure. So in the last couple of days, Fox 2 and today Channel 4 were out in front of my client's home, videotaping the front of his house, and then having his neighbors go on the TV and basically say a bunch of really mean things to my caregiver, who I represent. And we were sued. He was sued in the Macomb County Circuit Court, where they're seeking a bunch of relief. And it doesn't really matter. It's essentially that the caregiver failed to comply with their local ordinance. So the first thing that I would do is check to see whether or not that ordinance is valid against the caregiver. And we've had cases on that, like Terbeek versus City of Wyoming, and that's where we'd look. But the thing that I'm looking at, because this person does basically live and work in their home, perhaps there's some extra protections, even from the Medical Marijuana Act, but also that this ordinance seeks to regulate a home occupation.
Well, that's interesting.
That argument too,
no argument can be made by that. That argument is the dumbest argument I've ever heard in my life. Okay, and anyone that tries to tell you that that's a legitimate argument, you tell them that it is stupid. Everyone knows that that's stupid. I'm going to start arguing like Trump. This is my new thing. It's stupid. Okay. It's dumb. Everyone knows it's dumb. Anyone that knows anything knows that that's the dumbest thing that could be said ever. Okay? And let me tell you why.
Okay.
Mike modeling our next president.
Tell me any law enforcement officer that says that the medical marijuana caregiving is a business. Name one. Name one person.
Look. Oh no, I don't think it would. But the way that they have narrowed the medical marijuana act.
Listen, wait. Don't change the topic. I'm saying to you, any way that they say that's a business is ridiculous. There's no proof of any care.
Everyone thinks it's a business.
No, they don't. Who's that?
Yeah,
Who thinks that?
Law enforcement does for sure.
Everyone that's on the TV in my case, they're always talking about how caregiving is a business.
You know what you got to do? This is what you got to do. You got to get Alan Peisner, who's listening.
He's on. He's in the
queue. To write a letter to them and tell them to stop slandering your client.
He is in the queue. Do you want to bring him on?
Yes, bring Alan in. Bring Alan in.
Alan.
Yes, Schuyler needs some advice from a non-federalist. Alan, please go ahead.
Hi, Schuyler. I agree with you that what they're doing is in violation of Terbeek, and a lot of municipalities are doing that. As far as what the networks are doing there, if you want me to get them to back off, I can write them a nice letter and demand a retraction for any false statements that they've made about your client.
Why is this important that Alan's saying this? Because there's a legendary case in the state of Michigan, Peisner versus the Free Press. It is in Alan's genes.
I knew that.
Yes, and Alan is the great white shark on this issue. I shit you not.
The great white
No,
shark.
I don't doubt you. So the floor is Alan's.
All right. An important thing to remember, by the way, is that next Tuesday is Election Day for all Democrats. Do not, Chad, I hope you're listening, do not pull a Democratic lever when you vote or vote straight ticket. Make sure you cross party lines at
Especially
the Oakland
anyone
County
in Oakland County.
At the Oakland County, what? Go ahead. At the Oakland County Prosecutor's Office, vote for Dave Getz, okay? Don't vote for Jessica Cooper.
Mike Getz is his name.
Or Mike Getz. I'm sorry, Mike Getz. David Rudo interrupted me, and he caused a Freudian.
Sorry, I'm with you. I'm so with you.
Got to help us do
Democrats,
our straight
don't
ticket.
forget, Jessica
and our
Cooper is not
variant.
a real Democrat, and she shouldn't be.
Right.
She shouldn't be representing the Democrats based on her policies. So she is
because a lot of these policies, if we
anti-weed
get the people out of
prosecutor in the
office,
state.
we wouldn't be having to deal with these, stupid type ordinances. And the other thing, for all Republicans are voting, don't pull the lever either, and cross the ticket and vote for Craig Covey for Oakland County Sheriff. And remember, the special date for Trump voting where you won't have to wait in line is November 28th.
That's right. Yeah, no lines.
Good day, so.
But Shiler, seriously, if you want me to, write a letter to the...
No. Well, Alan, I'll get in contact with you, but again, the client makes all the decisions. So.
Right. Okay. I also have a couple cases, but I don't know if you want to do that now.
Well, the shell's about to hit. I think.
No, I want to. Why don't you stay in the queue?
Let's stay in the queue.
All right.
Take a break. Shiloh, you have to stay too, and we're going to...
don't go anywhere.
Do not go anywhere. And we'll be right back. And we have a whole legal talk when we get back. This should be fun. Yeah. And listen to Planet Green Trees.
Blue, you're my boy!
What are you going to do today, Napoleon?
Whatever I feel like I want to do. Gosh!
We need to begin.
When in doubt, fuck it. No. Keltner, control your prick.
Welcome back, everybody, and the first of our delights for you tonight is the fantastic...
Gertrude Tower!
The best in men's clothing. Call Paul's Boutique at Arts.
2, 1, 2, 3, 4.
You
that this is the place where we were so happy all our lives. Now so empty inside and feeling no pain, waiting for a hammer and a big ball and chain. They can tear it all down and build something new, that only I remember what was here. Tomorrow comes easy, just another day gone. How long will I have to keep returning? Now I look back, think I've known all the time. I've been fighting myself for so long. All the vows that we made, gone for old bags of lumber, disappeared on a cart down the road.
Alrighty, we are back. Thanks for staying with us. And I'm hoping we still have our lawyers in the queue. Is that right, lawyers? Yes. Please identify yourselves, because I want to be specific here. If I understand things, Shiler's still in the queue, right? Okay. And Alan?
Alan is still. Yes, Alan is still
Shiler
in the
bailed.
queue.
Is that right, Shiler? Boo. Boo.
He is there. He is there.
Shiler's there?
I'm watching his phone number. He is there.
Okay, fine.
Shiler, take us
Fine, then
off of mute.
Let him remain on mute while Alan does the report on the cases for 71 seconds. Go ahead, Alan.
Okay. There are two new cases from the Court of Appeals. The first one is Heritage Sustainable Energy versus the County of Schoolcraft, and it's case 331279, October 20th, 2016. And this is a case about zoning for windmills. It has nothing to do with medical marijuana, but they cite the Medical Marijuana Act in the decision to justify their holding. That's a first that I've ever seen, where they use it to explain how they're screwing a sustainable energy company out of zoning for their windmills. The other case is People versus English and Smith. It is Court of Appeals number 330389, and this is a published decision dated October 27th, 2016. And this one's really a no-brainer, but the prosecution sought leave from the trial court dismissing a charge against defendant for possession with intent to deliver drugs on or within 1,000 feet of school property. And in both of these cases, there was no evidence that the defendants intended to distribute the drugs within the school zones. The only evidence that they had was that they possessed it. So the Court of Appeals dismissed this with three separate opinions, with Judge O'Connell dissenting. Peter O'Connell, he's been probably one of the most negative medical marijuana judges in the Court of Appeals, so anybody who lives in the district where he's trying to get another seat for another 6 years, please remember to not vote for him. And that is the end of the legal update. Bum, 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 bum,
All right,
bum,
listen.
bum, bum.
On that note, Shiler, if you're still there, why don't you jump in this, because I know you're probably a good friend with Peter O'Connell. And
no, I don't know him personally.
There's an interesting story about Peter O'Connell, which is that not only did he write this concurring opinion in the Bob Redding case, which is really just the most outrageous opinion. Just to be brief about it, he said something to the effect of, the law that we are analyzing here is very confusing, and what will most likely happen is that it will be interpreted and reinterpreted and go through the system, and this is how it's going to go, and this is how it's going to go. But what we can do instead is I'm going to authorize myself to clarify it all right now. Even though I'm just a Court of Appeals judge, I'm going to take pen to paper and I'm going to make it all very crystal clear so everyone can know exactly how it should be. I am one man, and I dislike this, and let me be clear of how I dislike it and write a shitty opinion. That's essentially what he did. Now, what's interesting about Peter O'Connell is that as it goes in state courts, when a judge is running for re-election, they cannot do so after the age of 70 years old. This is an opinion that is unique to Michigan. Not all states have this. It is not a rule in the federal system. In fact, the judge who issued this opinion in the federal system, age limiting the time frame by which a judge could run for re-election, was authored by an 80-year-old federal judge. Just so it's clear. That's a true story. And Peter O'Connell is in that situation where he has maybe 1 or 2 years on his current term, where when that term is up, 1 or 2 years of his 6-year term left, and when he would run for re-election, he'd be older than 70 and have to, he would not be able to. So what he did was he tried to change this on his own, and he filed some pleadings in the, I think it was the Court of Claims.
It was.
And he bounced that shit around all over the place and appealed that, and very critically along the way was giving commentary to the media as a litigant. Yep. And this was, of course, the most fascinating part of the story, because he was very expressive in the way he felt about what was taking place as they looked at his case and ruled on it. And a lot of his claims were, this is awful. Now I know what it's like to feel like a litigant. You're treated like shit. These stupid courts are stupid. And they're ruling against me.
They did.
And it's so political.
They didn't like his shit.
They did not like his. I don't know what's the outcome. Is he on the ballot or not? I think he forced the issue. Oh no, he forced. I think he has created a. Is he running again? Does anybody know? We could check that.
He's on the ballot, but he's not allowed to declare himself as an incumbent for the seat he's running.
Okay, so he's on the ballot as a write-in. No, he's on the ballot as a.
No, he.
Right. Okay, right. But he wants to appoint. If he wins, he's already claimed that he's going to be the one that's going to appoint his replacement to the Court of Appeals. Did you hear that? This is not a thing. This is what's going on inside of the.
He's the last one we need appointing anyway.
It's not even for him. It's the executive branch that does that.
Bizarre.
Correct me. Where's Rudoy?
Yes.
Is that right? Fact check, Shiler.
Where?
The governor appoints his replacement until the next election.
Shiler, you sound so old.
Sorry, I sound older on the phone, I think.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, people are always surprised when they show up for like a consultation, like, oh, you're that young. All right.
How do you deal with that, Shiler? That sounds like ageism.
Not well.
I mean, we were just talking about O'Connell and his obvious issues, and now we've got Shiler.
He looks good for his age.
Yeah, too bad he's such an asshole, huh?
Yep.
It's a real shame. You don't have to respond to that, Shiler. What do you think, Alan?
No.
When do
Eric Reynolds is a great guy.
When do Trump's electioneering stunts turn into treason? Where's that line?
Oh God.
Where's that line? Let's discuss that.
Yeah, where is it? Come on.
In denying the results of the election, for instance, or sanctioning some sort of extrajudicial punishment of his opponent.
Or that wig.
What are we talking about?
Yeah.
I mean, really.
What are we talking about right now?
We're talking about Trump.
All right. That's what I want to ask.
Where's the line?
Is Shiler on the line?
For treason.
Yeah.
All right. So, what is the story with the Federalists these days? I mean, I know you're in the society. What are they saying these days about the Trump? Where do they fall on that? Are they backers of that? I'm just kind of curious because we know that he seems to be someone that is
I think,
purist with the Constitution. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Well, first of all, we have our annual dinner on Thursday, the 10th. So if anyone's interested, it's being held at the St. John's Golf at the Inn at St. John's. It's in Plymouth or Dearborn. If you guys were to show up, it'd be a lot of fun.
What night is it? Thursday? Wait, is it Thursday night? Maybe we'll broadcast from there.
What is this for?
You know how great that would be?
What type of party is this?
It would be. It's not a party.
Do I have to wear a tricorn?
What is it?
You would definitely have to wear pins of sort to identify your allegiance. But anyway.
Oh my.
I think most of them don't really care for Trump too much. They probably consider themselves, legal intelligentsia, so they wouldn't go behind a populist. But that's just my observation.
But if you brought up Hillary, they will say, "Lock her up."
Oh no, lock her up.
Am I right?
Yeah, exactly.
I mean,
It sounds like the Federalist viewpoint.
No, but is it? Correct me if I'm wrong, but there's beyond. It's beyond reproach. Like even though they may think that Trump is dangerous and not even close to representing a civilized human being under any circumstances because they have wives and they have daughters, but themselves they don't think. But nevertheless, the idea of them even recognizing Hillary as a human who would be fit is beyond their acceptability. Am I right about that?
I don't think that's true.
Okay, all right.
Did I lose you?
No, I understand. What is the? So let me ask them. Do you because the what is the connection then? I mean, if someone didn't like Trump, if someone didn't like Trump,
so
let's say,
where. Okay, the story on the Federalist Society, where they came from, they came out of the post-Burger Court. So back in the 60s, a bunch of people were getting a bunch of rights and stuff, and they were basically expanding rights through these not-so-certain things in the Constitution, like the abortion thing that comes out of penumbras, whenever. You can get Alan on this. But essentially, they wanted it to be a little bit more textualist, strictly interpreted, and there comes your Federalist Society. That's where it comes out of. But from that, it's divided into two factions now where some Federalists that remain just simply want a strict interpretation of laws and the Constitution be read broadly and widely. So you strictly limit statutory law, but you view constitutional law expansively, which I think creates the most rights for most individuals.
Okay. And what's the other group?
It would eliminate some of the exceptions to the warrant requirements.
What's the second group? That's one of the splits. Was there a second one? What did you describe both at that time?
No, but then there's the
strictest
Burkean type Federalists that just simply stick to tradition, and tradition will be your guide. Community standards, which is going to be relevant to, I think, our case in Sterling Heights.
Stop for a second. Stop about that.
Yeah,
just
all
stop.
that.
Just stop. The blinded. I want to know about this. How does this interplay with some of the other social issues? Like.
They're voting Republican, though. They're voting for David
No.
Viviano,
I mean, the philosophy that you just described, does it, are the classes of individuals that some argue have been overlooked or, underrepresented, properly represented in the, criminal justice?
Well,
none of that is recognized.
Yeah,
that's not a recognized.
No, not at all.
Right. But they would be.
That's the Federalist That's actually the Federalist' favorite thing to say. They look to Federalist 78, that stuff that was written pre-Constitution, and they basically talk about how laws are to be applied and not how they want to be applied.
What do you mean pre-78? They wrote. Wait, the Federalists wrote their own Constitution?
No, the Federalist Papers that were.
Oh, that. Okay, I thought. Okay. That's 70. I thought you meant 1978.
So
I'm sorry.
that's one of the things that they love to cite.
I see. I thought you meant like 1978 because that was around the time you were talking. Like they wrote their own. No. All right, but anyway, so in this analysis here, but I mean, isn't it true though that whatever the rights that are guaranteed and the document that protects the that prohibits the government from intruding upon those, apply equally across the board, unequivocally. Am I right about that? There's no original concept of the Federalist philosophy that doesn't recognize all men as being created equal. Am I right about that or no?
No, these are huge issues. Like, for instance,
what do you mean that's an issue? Wait a second, that's an issue. The delay on that was kind of.
These are huge. These are huge issues. I mean, this goes back to how we're supposed to interpret word. For instance, the Constitution is a contract between the states to create this federal entity. A contract can be viewed structurally. First of all, there's the articles, how it's going to operate, internally and consistently within the Constitution. And then what effect the amendments have, and how we're supposed to take those, and how they reinterpret perhaps the underlying document. Those issues are. It's just expansive issues that you can't just come to at the end a conclusion. It's not like Federalists all believe the same thing. They're just simply saying that, in large part, that they're big fans of statutory law. They like things to be basically just nailed down to these textual principles, rather than just simply governing concepts. And that's where I think why we lose each other, is because you're a big fan of these big constitutional, concepts, and I'm a little bit more textualist, and I just want statutes to be actually implemented how they were written. And that's not what's going on with the Medical Marijuana Act, in my opinion. And that's why a Federalist can basically get involved here and be on the side of the MMA.
Okay, I got that, and especially in light of the fact that some of the basic principles, would a Federalist look to the ballot initiative as the basis to begin the analysis in analyzing the?
So there's actually some Federalists are big Lockeans. They love this idea that the ballot initiative is the greatest way to get what the consent of the governed. The ballot is the most direct democracy that you are going to experience, and it's basically from where all power of the government inevitably comes from. So I find it offensive when judges basically tear down what were clear rights in a ballot initiative process, which also gets me really excited.
But I'm saying, would a Federalist judge say
everything?
Would a Federalist judge say, look, before we even begin to analyze the statute that was created and that we have to analyze, we have to look to the original language of the ballot initiative? The fourth paragraph was...
And that's what and of course he would, because that's what I did today for my client. And then the last part, which really got to me, was the last provision in Proposal 08-1, was to permit registered and unregistered patients and primary caregivers to assert medical reasons for using marijuana as defense to any prosecution involving marijuana.
You just found that out right now? Yeah, that's
the way that they read it. Unregistered patients is in there.
Right.
That's fantastic.
Wait. Put that in.
That was in the ballot language.
I mean, who are you telling this to? Do you think this is a thing? I mean, did you just?
I know, but we're getting excited about this.
Okay, that's another reason why. What, Schuyler? What does that also support? I probably told you that about the overhaul bullshit.
It's all bullshit.
No, the overall bullshit
it's
crap.
All bullshit.
This is this knocks down the overall bullshit. Am I right? Am I right? How can you not
absolutely.
say? Okay.
Yeah, I would say so.
I mean, tell me how tell me how Balsma. I mean, tell me how any interpretation of the Michigan Medical Marijuana Act and closed lock facility, what is defined by therein, what specifically says that cannot be entered by anyone other than a registered caregiver and. It doesn't say registered caregiver. It's a primary caregiver and a patient, right? I mean, there's more than one person that can go in there, and the first person is not the. Do you know what I'm talking about? What is it? Someone get that section 4 out. I'll get it. I mean,
I got it, but that's a common problem that we have. But when it comes to people listening to us, basically they have to know. Better safe than sorry. At least
forget that. That's all right. I back to okay. So the Federalist is not necessarily just judicially oriented. It's a philosophy of how government should be run and governed, and who plays what role and why. But is that right? Is that fair to say? But those.
I mean, that's fine. Yes.
But those that are in the judiciary that are adopting this philosophy, would be suggesting that it plays whatever it defines what the role is of that, judge would have in the involvement in the case and in their own personal, philosophy of how they would rule, even though it's there's no consistency.
So this is actually I know what you're saying. This is actually a really good point. So you don't need to look very far back. You have Chief Justice John Roberts in the Obamacare decision basically saying that the role of the court is to try to make legislation work. And if you're a Federalist, you're really mad at, John Roberts. Like he's not supposed to be doing that. He is a separate, he's a separate, branch of government. He's not there to just simply make the law into what it can be constitutionally. He's there to uphold constitutional principles. So, yeah, that can get really dangerous when the judges take perhaps what they consider to be a Federalist approach and just, being very kind to the legislature. But, that's not what happened there.
I cannot even really describe how much I disagree with everything you're saying. I don't know why. I feel like...
I'm sorry.
No, I mean, I'm just thinking to myself, like, if that was the way of the world, that we were left with the brains of the legislatures, we are in some deep fucking doo-doo. I got to tell you, the idea of Marbury versus Madison...
from that perspective.
What's that?
That's what the Obamacare decision means from that perspective.
Well,
when they looked at the law, they saw it didn't work unless they viewed it as a tax. They shifted the import of the act itself to basically make it work, to make it legal. And my position is the judges shouldn't be trying to accomplish that. They should just simply be basically the checks on legislative,
all right, fine.
legislative power.
The only real example that I can think of, and I don't even know what this means at the end of it. But let's use the Michigan Medical Marijuana Act as an example, since we're so familiar with it. Okay.
Sure.
I think it's fair to say that when the, and I think it was even who's the guy that we like? Name one of the guys, not Young, but. No, on the Supreme Court right now. Give me what's his? No.
Young. Yeah, he's
not Young. Never mind.
Zara. What do you want to know?
He may have retired. Oh, was it Kavanaugh? It may have been Kavanaugh at the time.
Yeah, Kavanaugh's retired.
Right. That's what it was. Or maybe it was some. All right, but anyways, I remember them saying, like, listen, we're trying to, make a ruling here that is consistent with the ballot initiative. I remember, like, during the oral arguments, and I appreciated that because it seemed like it was the only voice that had any integrity at the time. So I'm saying this, that when I look at what has happened in the Michigan Medical Marijuana Act, and I say, thank God the Supreme Court of Michigan had, the integrity to not be a political, cesspool, to really, truly be the bastion of integrity of trying to, make some sense of it. Because, if you think of where it was at the time, the Court of Appeals had destroyed it. They'd undone it. There was, they were messing it terrible, like literally. Things could have gone, despite what we all read. It shouldn't have. No one would have thought it could. And reading the law the way that it was, how could it be any other way? And Court of Appeals undid it, threw some funk onto there that just destroyed it. Every logical aspect of it made no sense at all, especially in light of what you're referring to of the ballot initiative there. And, the Supreme Court laid it down. Is that judicial activism? Is that something that the Federalists would be against? I that to me is, but I guess in another era, you may have the exact, opposite, and a very distressed Supreme Court that just doesn't give a shit and is political, and, I don't know. Talk to me, Schaller.
I think, first of all, judicial activism is a term that doesn't carry a lot of meaning, but I would think that anything that doesn't adhere to the Constitution is, judicial activism, in and itself. But yeah, I think every time that the court does not follow, the plain language, and yeah, it presupposes that me reading it knows. But if they're going to basically say, although the plain language says this, we conclude that, that's a red flag. And I think the plain language of the Medical Marijuana Act has been clear since, day one, but they didn't make it mean that. People getting, convicted of small marijuana crimes was not the point of this whole thing. And that's what 4210 says.
That was a legislative thing, though. But, the court attempted to. The court laid out immunities. I mean, as recent as the, I don't think that even the Carruthers case, and how does that work then? I mean, if you're standing in a position where you've got the Carruthers ruling, which really does not, which is bad, but doesn't really apply to all of the non-smokables, but it's being applied to all the non-smokables. And the law enforcement agencies are going, where's your remedy there? Where's your remedy? Does it fall in you rely on the judiciary to what?
I'm not certain your question. I mean, any conflict, you rely on the judiciary to do the right thing. I mean, that's every day in, criminal law. The judges are there to enforce the legislature's will.
What about if the courts are wrong?
That's it. I'm sorry.
The courts are also there to protect the Constitution, but from the legislature. That's the check and balance.
Very good. Yep, absolutely.
But in Michigan, the courts are there to take whatever law they want and interpret it in the way that they like, and just basically, I'd like to think they tried to learn from Scalia to be semi-smart about disguising that they're just.
Let's go back to this.
We've
gotten really off track. I think what's important is that this is a reactionary group that was formed in the most progressive period in American history of the judiciary. Am I right? Is there any other way to say that?
I don't like the term reactionary as you used it, but yeah, it is in response to the Burger Court, I think.
And when you say response to the Burger Court, let's talk about the Burger Court. The Burger Court brought you Miranda. It brought you Wong Sung, which is the fruit of the poisonous tree. Shall I go on? I think the Burger Court brought you ineffective assistance of counsel. What's that one? The what is it? What is that? Come on, Josh. What is
The
Batson is the jury. Batson's the jury, isn't it? No, that's Strickland. Strickland is right. The ineffective assistance of counsel. Let me go on. So we got. I know Terry v. Ohio. I think. Right. Am I right? Okay.
Yeah.
Peyton, which I think is the house with the.
So you're against this stuff, Schuyler?
So
this is all good stuff.
Right. No, let's talk about what the Federalist Society brought us. Golston, the good faith exception to the search warrant. What?
What?
You're telling me that the judge threw out the search warrant, said the constitutional rights were violated, and the evidence is still coming in?
Damn Federalists!
They broke the Constitution. What? And what? Inevitably,
they broke the Fourth
inevitable whatever doctrine. What is that shit? What is that one again? The inevitable fucking
inevitable discovery.
Yeah. Okay. And then what's the final one, Alan? What's that other stupid?
Good faith exception.
Unbelievable.
I did that one already. No,
this
there's another one. There's
this is the bullshit that lets them get away with busting into people's
I'm going to go as far as to
houses.
say, outside of the Burger Court came the inventory search exception to the search warrant too, right? That kind of, maybe not. That could have fell out of it. That would be like a bone they threw to the non-judicial activists at the time. I don't understand how that is considered, not protecting the citizen, protecting the citizens against, the core principles of the Constitution. You know what I mean? Like if we don't have, it's about busing. Jeff says it's about busing, Shiloh. You know what that means? What is that? The Illuminati shit? Tell me.
I have no idea.
What about busing, Jeff? Give him a microphone.
Desegregation is largely, what was going on, and that was the big backlash. The cases having to do with busing children across schools, the cases that had to do with the white flight out of Detroit.
But you're saying that influenced the judiciary at the time, and that was what was.
Yeah, it was a big back. That was the ultimate act of judicial activism. You know. It doesn't have much
Brown
of a
versus
meaning.
Board of Education.
Right, it doesn't have much of a meeting, but it's basically, I agree with Charlotte. It doesn't describe much, but it's kind of found its greatest expression in the mandated desegregation of schools and restaurants.
Yeah, I mean that's where that's where the most objection is going to be. That's why what we're talking about here, is really just. I mean, on that issue, Shiloh, right? Because the original interpretations were, in today's world, would be seen as racist. Am I right? You can't call it any other way. There would be there's no political correctness.
Well, I mean, where does the court get the power to take a kid and send him across, town to a different school against his parents' wishes? I mean, that's judicial activism, I think, or at least is perceived to be, and I think that's what a lot of the backlash came from.
He's saying that's another one of the pieces that contributed to this this cult that you're involved in. Just kidding, I'm joking. I'm having fun with you. I
wanna go check
I may
out
come to the
the
meeting.
society.
Yeah, I may come to the meeting. Do you think we can broadcast from there? Jeff can play some guitar.
I'm a veteran of the.
It would be hilarious.
Society.
Jeff Frazier is a veteran of the Federal Society, but he's apparently got PTSD and is retired because of that. I'm kidding. I get it. It's everywhere. You don't know. It's like they just show up and they right. Shyler, what is it open to the public or is it more of a?
I think it's I think they probably you could sell tickets. I think they sell tickets.
Okay.
Today. Yeah, anyone can go.
Is it like do they have like a bake sale?
Wait a second. Next Thursday we're doing the CDAM thing. I think, aren't we?
Speaking of events,
Yes,
a week from today in Traverse City, CDAM is having an advanced criminal law seminar, and one of our key speakers will be none other than Michael Comorn. He'll be speaking at 4 o'clock a week from today, November 10th, in Traverse City at 4 p.m. He's conducting a master's class on medical marijuana and motions, and we have him in the best room in the hotel, the Big Dome.
The Big Dome.
Is my room called the Big Dome?
Is that right?
Yes.
Traverse City is really a lovely
It seats
town.
like 200.
It's a lovely town. I really like it up there. But
Well, and the next day we have Dean Strang from the Making a Murderer series. He'll be talking about systemic injustice.
Right
Yes,
on.
he's the guy that did the what is it? Making a Murder. Hold on. First of all, I made
Right, he defended.
I got a real
He defended
problem.
Steve Avery in that case.
Nobody cares, but I've got a real problem with my calendar next week. I got a couple of things colliding, and we got a fight going on with the court. Is that right?
Well, I'll stand in for you at the master's class if needed.
Okay. That's gonna
Well, it's 10 o'clock, fellas.
Oh, it is. Wow.
Great show, guys.
It was a great show.
We're gonna have to do a couple after 10 o'clock. Go around the rooms for final thoughts. So why don't we do that? Right? Why don't we do that right now? As we're hold on. Let me set up our background music while we're doing this. But please, why don't we begin with T-Pain final thoughts?
Hey, what's going on in the Court of Appeals with the improper transport case?
Yes, I understand Josh Covert may have argued that today for the Court of Appeals. I do not know what happened.
Yesterday.
Okay, what happened?
I don't.
He argued.
They argued with each other, the judges and Josh.
It was quite the debate.
I mean, I can't imagine. Of course, the Court of Appeals is going to rule that proper transport is constitutional because they will ignore clear law, like very clear. This is not even a question.
What are they
Are these
gonna
people that are
say
I
in
thought
support
listen,
of their position, though?
Is Henry Stott a
They're gonna
Federalist?
say
They're going to do
it's
something
not-
interesting in support of their position.
Is Peter O'Connell a Federalist?
They don't intend.
Is Peter O'Connell and
Say-
Stott
they're
a
gonna
Federalist?
say
Sure
it's
they
not
are.
Implication of law.
What is going
They'll be there.
on?
They'll be there on
They're gonna try to make
Thursday.
this argument.
We can see them.
I've seen
Say
some
hi.
of the arguments.
I want to know something. Is it
from
open
the
carry? Can I go
prosecutors.
open carry there?
They're going to trip over themselves.
I mean,
in
with
this
my AK.
Your AR-15.
If they try to apply it like they've been trying to get away with it in the trial courts, they are going to trip over themselves in this opinion. Because it does not look like a reasonable regulation.
It's going to be.
It looks
David,
like something that is
David, the big
overturned
question
by
is
the
this:
MMA.
It's going to be.
Did Josh Covert have the wherewithal to argue that the issue is moot with the amendments because it smashed any concept that there was or ever should be a transport law? Because if
There were
they
restrictions
acknowledged
placed
it,
on transport,
if they
yeah.
acknowledged it as something they wouldn't have needed to write an amendment to the Michigan medical marijuana, which is the way in which they are going to regulate the transport of marijuana, and they'll do it by a civil infraction only. And
I believe Josh argued the new law, just to throw that in there. So, new
well,
law
I
is
feel very confident then
retroactive,
that things will go good then. Okay, T-Pain,
Word.
good job. Way to stir it up.
Stirring it up, T-Pain.
Who's next? Who wants to jump in? Frazier, Rick? Frazier?
Yes, happy Halloween. A parting thought. If you have problems with seeing Bill Schuette as the next Attorney General of the United States, don't vote Republican. Vote Democrat, Mayor Beach.
With the exception of Oakland County Prosecuting Attorney. Vote Republican for Oakland County Prosecuting Attorney. Vote Mike Getz.
And let me tell you something. For Jeff Frazier to say that, it is very... I know it hurt him a lot because he hates Hillary Clinton and enjoys suing her and her husband. Is that right?
I do, and have.
He does and has.
It's a nasty woman.
Nasty woman.
That nasty woman.
Rick.
You know, we've had some amazing results here in Michigan with marijuana law reform, with Q joining the MI Legalize organization, and all the things that we've moved forward with. 5 states looking to legalize, 4 additional states looking to do some sort of a medical, or in Montana, dispensary authorization. But no stage is bigger than the presidential one. And I think all of those statewide accomplishments are threatened and at risk if we have a Trump presidency. I would encourage anyone to not vote for this motherfucker. And please just get out and vote. And don't forget, Deborah Thomas for State Supreme Court. Make sure you hit all the proposals and all the options on your ballot sheet.
Shiloh, did Deborah Thomas get the Federalist support on that one? I'm just curious. Is that anyways, Jamie, any final thoughts?
Yeah, we didn't get to it tonight, even though I wanted to hear about it a little bit. Maybe it's because I specifically wanted to hear about it a little bit. Yeah.
Who invited Booby in with the guilt? Seriously, what happened here?
The MI legalized federal, or not the MI legalized case, the case that would affect MI legalized includes other ballot efforts as well, based on petitioners and circulators with the Comorn Law and Cannabis Council. Still goes on. There's been some things filed, and maybe we'll talk about that next week. And then also joining our MI legalized team, as mentioned a couple times tonight, and Quinette Jameson, Q, will be joining us in studio with Deborah Young next week.
Awesome. Fantastic. She's awesome.
That's that almost sounds like we have it sounds like we have a radio show. We might even promote that in advance. Okay, Jim Powers, I know you've been muzzled tonight. I feel terrible. Please rant all you want.
No, I'm good, man.
You get enough?
Time for bed. It's been a long week.
You haven't been muzzled. You've been killing. I love you in the. I want to say you're great in the.
Managing the queue. That's
Yeah.
what I do.
Okay. How about Shiler and then Alan?
They're gone. They gone. Oh wait, Shiler's right here. Hold on. We're bringing Shiler back.
I'm fine.
There he is.
Everyone hang in
Hey,
there.
he is. What are your final thoughts, Shiler?
Just hang in there, basically.
I feel better.
That's
I feel
incredible.
better.
Very,
I feel
very
better after that.
inspirational.
I was going to say it's really insightful.
You know why? Because that's what it says in the statute. That's what it says in the statute. There's nothing.
I'm breathing
There's
deeply
nothing
now.
passionate
Just
about
hang
that.
in
Just
there.
read the statute.
Just hang in there.
Just read the statute. It's all in there.
It's not
okay?
going to get better, but
Everything's
just
in
hang
the
in there.
text.
Just read the statute.
Is that what you tell people?
It's
that
in the black and white.
Don't get all flowery with me. Just read the
law.
fucking statute.
Read it, and come back, and then hang in there.
Big ideas. Big idea. Read the statute.
And all the case
I
law
don't
stacked
I
on
don't want
top
it to be
of
complicated. I want to be able to do it.
That's funny. I'm glad we.
I should know what the law is.
It's important to read the law. You're right. You can't do any of this.
Thank God
without
for big
reading the
ideas.
law. I know
Thank
that
God
for
for big
sure.
ideas. Here's my final thought: when people start telling you to give up on your big ideas, tell them to fuck off. Okay.
That's right.
I read a kid's book the other day where they were. I can't even go into it, but the imagination is important. People need to remember, and big ideas are important too. Even though we live in a constricted, tightly wound, gray world of bullshit, but so yeah, I'm holding on to my big ideas. That's my very, very strong one. So, Chad, you got anything to say?
Just also like to remind everyone that Trump is a fascist, and
he really is.
To vote against him, actually, and also that means to vote for Hillary.
Chad, in order for him to be a fascist, by definition, he'd have to be nationalistic.
Yeah.
And he'd have to have in the real classic sense of a 1920, 30 fascist, he'd have to identify a class of individuals that he pinned as being blameworthy or as a rally point for his governance. That's a fascist, Chad. I don't know what you're talking about.
Sounds like a
pointed several.
You just described him.
Yeah.
I did?
Hit
Was
the
that?
nail on
You
the
did.
head.
Sorry. Oh, what do you know? What do you know?
Everybody, he's the only one that can fix their problems. You know, that might be something a fascist would do, and that, you know, he's the only one that can take control of the legislature. He wants to take control of them.
He's
Scary
tapping
times, guys.
tapping
Housing
into
prices
the
might drop
worst
soon. I
that
might be
humanity
buying
has to
the market.
offer. So that's it. That's what I have to say.
There's a really funny YouTube video going around with where Jon Stewart has some brawl on Twitter with Trump. You know about this? And Trump's calling him out like it was his original name is Feinstein or whatever it is, and he's like Jon Stewart, you know, and Leibowitz or whatever it is. And he comes back with Trump von fuckface or something like that. And it was he went at it for weeks, and Jon Stewart's reading the exchange, you know, as part of his bit. Then it's 3:30 in the morning. You know. It was
As he's sitting in his golden throne, Trump advises me to stick my head around it.
We should play that. If we were a radio show, we'd have that
File this appeal.
Yeah, that was
all
a
right.
pretty
All right, we
good
got to
one.
call. We got to file some appeals. Shiler,
We gotta go.
good stuff tonight. Thanks for calling in.
Good night.
And all right, we'll talk at you all next week, everyone.
Trump
Next
is
week,
a
I promise to
fascist.
talk about the Joel Selman case. Jamie, I'm really pissed that you didn't. get
Joel
on it.
is on the line.
Oh, is he? Well, no. So case is over. Case is over.
Case is
We'll
over.
get him on a. We got to adjourn 1 week, and then we'll get him back
We're
on.
going
When
to
we're live
adjourn.
from the. Where we're not. We have issues.
When we're
next week.
live from the
What
Federalist
about next
Society.
Thursday?
It'll be good.
All kinds of issues. It's all realized.
Federalists.
CDAM, the Federalists, and Q.
All right.
We have to do the show on Wednesday. Nope, that's terrible too.
Let's
All right,
do it
very
out.
good.
We gotta go.
All right, peace.
Have a good night.
All right.
I heard